You're a Jags fan, you're an NFL fan, and you clicked on this video for a reason. You're looking for the best Jaguars content, NFL content out there, and it's right here on the Poojie Podcast. Let's go. What is he doing? Nah, bro, I think he's legit. You just can't do that in that situation. Nah, you couldn't be more wrong. Yeah, I could agree with that. This is the Poojie Podcast. What is going on, Pooj Crew? Thank you for being here for episode 150 of the Poojie Podcast. Great episode lined up for you today. Going to recap the Jaguars versus Chargers matchup from this past weekend. Look ahead to the Jaguars versus Chiefs rematch in the divisional round and all other things in the NFL. But let's welcome on Kyle for another episode of the Poojie Podcast. Appreciate you being here, man.
Of course, yeah. Thanks for having me again. Last week we talked about hopefully getting on this podcast with some good news and a good look ahead. So happy that came true.
Here we are. It wasn't looking too hot about midway through the game on Saturday night, and kind of already formulating in my head what topics we were going to talk about for this episode and where it went wrong. But Trevor Lawrence was able to correct some of his flaws, and the team really rallied together. And here we are talking about a victory. So it's beautiful. Jaguars 31, Chargers 30 from Saturday night. A massive come-from-behind victory for the Jacksonville Jaguars after being down 27 points. Kyle, short and simple, what does it take to mount a comeback like that in this league, in the NFL? How did the Jaguars pull this one off?
Yeah, I think just believing in themselves, being in this position previously throughout the season, being down in games, having to play from behind. I would say ignorance kind of helped the Jaguars in this sense, meaning, this was kind of bonus football for them. The season wasn't looking good. It wasn't looking like, we were going to make the playoffs. We weren't projected to even be in the playoffs before the season started. The fact that we didn't have any preconceived notions about how a playoff game should be played. I don't know. I know Dwan Smoot was on the team last playoff run, but I'm trying to think what players are currently on the team that were on it last time. I'd imagine not many. Cam Robinson, maybe a couple of the O-linemen. But not a ton that were there. So I think some of that youthful ignorance, again, not necessarily a bad thing in a situation like this, believing in Trevor Lawrence, realizing that they were only down 27-0. And I say only because, the Chargers got the ball 3 times within the 20-yard line, one of those being like on the 5-yard line, 5 turnovers in the first half. Luckily, the defense stopped some of those and held them to field goals. So it's not like the Chargers were dominating us or moving the ball. So I think the Jaguars probably thought a lot about that over halftime and, thought if they could get a couple points on the board, then it would be a game.
Yeah, the first team in NFL history to win a game with a +5 turnover margin in the playoffs. That might even go for the regular season as well. But I definitely know for the playoffs. So impressive statistic there. Third largest comeback in NFL history with 27 points. Ironically enough, first largest comeback was the Chiefs' 31-point comeback over the Colts back in 2013. Offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs, Doug Peterson. So Doug Peterson, part of both of those massive comebacks.
What year was that?
What's up?
What year was that?
2013.
Okay, got it.
He was offensive coordinator there 2013 to 2015 and on one of Andy Reid's first staffs in Kansas City. But, something in the water there for Doug Peterson mounting comebacks in the playoffs. And I think it really comes down to taking it one play at a time. You talked about the defense stepping up when they had to. It's not easy stepping up when the opposition gets the ball, not only on your half of the field, but in your red zone to start their drive. And that's exactly what happened 3 times in the first half with the muffed punt and then the 2 interceptions right inside the 20. Asante Samuel Jr., 3 interceptions before halftime. It was ugly. It was turning bad very quickly, but the team stuck together, and it was great to see everyone kind of come together at halftime and turn things around. Kyle, I know you were up at the game with us. Thoughts on the crowd during this monumental game for Jacksonville?
Yeah, from what I can tell, it was pretty Jags dominant. When I looked down below it, I did see a good amount of Chargers fans on the Chargers sideline. But yeah, I think the crowd was pretty good. I think most of them stayed. I don't know if there's statistics or estimates on how many left. I know a lot of people probably thought it. Don't necessarily blame you. That was a poor display of football. It looked like we weren't even prepared to play or anything. So the fans were awesome after the game, very rowdy, lively in Jacksonville. Not just a win, but a come-from-behind victory when it seemed like all hope was lost. Just an awesome game, awesome experience. I was rewatching some of the clips and videos of it, and the crowd was very loud after that game. When we kicked that field goal, so loud. Obviously, we're there in the moment. We can't necessarily tell how loud it is, I feel like. We're also yelling and, all discombobulated. But when I went and watched it back, that was insane.
Yeah, it was wild. Here, I'm going to run through the drives real quick. 12 total drives. Interception, punt, interception, punt, interception, punt. And then coming out of halftime going into halftime, we had the huge touchdown to kind of stop the bleeding, if you will. It was 27-7 going into halftime, which I don't even want to say you felt the momentum shifting because it just kind of felt like a touchdown. The momentum really started to shift when we scored. We stopped them coming out of halftime, scored directly after in less than a minute and a half, and then stopped them again and scored to make it 28-20, right? Or
no, so they got a field goal.
27-20, and then it was 30-20, right?
Yeah, they got a field goal on their second possession in the second quarter. That was the only points they scored in the second half.
That's right, because it was 30-14 at one point. The Jags scored a touchdown to make it 30-20, went for 2 to make it an 8-point game. But even when it was sitting there at 30-20, about midway through the fourth quarter, you could really start feeling the momentum shift. Let's look at some of these stats real quick, though, because Trevor Lawrence, 4 interceptions in the first half. I know I asked you after the game to kind of read me some of his statistics. He ended with 4 touchdowns and 288 yards. So obviously the 4 interceptions, you got to get rid of those. Even 2 is almost too many for the playoffs. The resiliency to come back for Trevor Lawrence, Kyle, talk on that.
It's tough not to get in your head. I feel like he probably did a little bit. The one he talked after the game, he said one pass was a really bad decision. The others were just, good plays mixed with, maybe not the best throws, but just, football plays. So maybe he had a good perspective on it. I was worried that kind of like we saw on Monday night with the field goal kicker for the Cowboys, that you're just not seeing it clearly. You're doubting yourself. When you doubt yourself, especially in these big pressure situations, usually, the nerves or the doubt is going to creep in your head and can cause you to make some errant throws. So for him to I think scoring in that last drive of the first half really helped everybody. We got on the board. Okay, it's a 20-point game. This should probably be a lot worse. Let's go into halftime, figure out what we got to do, and come out in the second half. Hopefully make a stop and get a touchdown. And that's exactly what they did. Pretty crazy when you look at the drive chart and stuff. We each had 8 possessions in the first half. Granted, the Chargers' last possession was just a kneel down, but then in the second half, we each had 4 possessions. So that's pretty wild. 8 and 8, and then 4 and 4. Just a vast difference. Usually it's a little closer, right? Like, 6 and 6, 5 and 5, 4 and 4, something like that, but never, double in the first half that it is in the second. And then for the Chargers to not even have any turnovers, usually when you see these comebacks, there's a strip sack deep in the end zone. There's a pick 6, there's a fumble, there's something. We didn't have any of that on our side. It was just a punt, a missed field goal. A punt, a field goal, a missed field goal, and then a punt. So pretty crazy to come back without any turnovers. I guess you could say the missed field goal, kind of like a turnover or like a punt to some extent, but
yeah, kind of like a turnover on downs.
Turnover on downs more so, yeah.
Crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't even think of that. Kind of mounting the comeback without even getting any assistance from mistakes of their own outside of just kind of floundering in the second half. But that's kind of what we've seen from the Chargers in the past. And when it got to 27 points, it was almost like, okay, the Chargers really can't flounder this one away. And then, they happened to go and do so. But got to look at ETN real quick. Well, really first, Trevor Lawrence on the 2-point conversion. It started with the Joey Bosa penalty to move the 2-point conversion to the 1-yard line. At that point, it was 30-26. And Doug Peterson said, you know what? We're not here to go to overtime. If we're going to be kicking a field goal at the end of the game, it's going to be for a victory. It's going to be for a win. Jaguars score touchdown. I think it was the touchdown to Christian Kirk, actually, to make it 30-26. and that was the final touchdown of the game. And Trevor Lawrence calls his own number and literally just does like a little Michael Jordan logo over the top of the pile, barely gets touched to score the 2-point conversion, make it a 30-28 game. At that point, it felt electric in that stadium, and I honestly felt like the defense was going to get a turnover at that point. But they got a sack to extend, move them behind the sticks. I think it was 2nd and 13, 2nd and 16. They had a short run and then, a nothing pass to make it 4th and 6. So huge moment there. And then Travis Etienne, Kyle, such a quiet 100-yard game from that guy, obviously helped by a 25-yard 4th and 1 run, T formation to the outside. Cannot say enough about his toughness. Cannot say enough about his value to this team.
Yeah, I mean, that was incredible. I think in the second half, we started running a little more up-tempo, a little more inside handoffs. We were going with the no huddle, and he was just getting 5 yards at a time. So that certainly helped. First half, he was quiet, the one reception. First half, Trevor Lawrence was struggling. He couldn't get the ball out. We couldn't pick up the blitz. So I don't know if Etienne was back there trying to help with pass protection or what. Would like to see him get a little more active in the passing game, just because being that dual threat certainly helps the quarterback, can help keep the chains moving, things of that nature. But great game by him. That 4th down call was awesome. We set up, well, let's rewind real quick. Don't like the 3rd down call. I think that's something that needs to be addressed and looked at. We cannot, run a hurry up on 3rd and very short, 3rd and 1 after we just barely missed getting the 1st down. Then we run a pass play that was kind of half put together, not even really open, throws it at his feet. That's a play where you're probably running it 2 times in a row right there. I'm assuming they knew they were going to go for it on 4th down, but I would have probably liked to just see a quarterback sneak or hurry up and do a quarterback sneak and get that 1st down. With that said, huge play on 4th down. We line up. We try to get the scheme as to what they're doing. We call a timeout. We line up with 3 guys behind the quarterback. Lately, we've been seeing, the Eagles have been doing it well. Some other teams do it well. We think that's going to be a quarterback sneak with a big push from behind. The 2 guys, the guy in the middle, guy on the right, kind of go up, and then it's a sweep to the outside to Travis Etienne. He busts it 25 yards, stays in bounds, makes the Chargers use their last time out. Either they use it that time or the next time, but either way, they might have not even used it because it really didn't matter. We were going to milk the clock. We were like at the 20-yard line, 15-yard line. So just unbelievable play. Biggest play of the season.
Yeah. Just 2 really big moments for Doug Peterson. And I know the cliche is he's such a big time kind of play caller and takes risks. And we've seen that from him all year. And hell, we saw that from him against the Chiefs back in, what was it, week 10, week 11, maybe, whatever it was, right before the bye. But he's taken risks all season. And it started first drive of the game, 4th and 7 for the Jags. He went for it on 4th and 7, and we didn't get it. Zay Jones, I think that ended up being an interception anyway. But didn't get the 4th and 7 there. But he does, it's almost like he doesn't necessarily call plays based on analytics. He calls them based on feel of the game and like where he senses the momentum at, which is awesome because you have a coach that's that locked into the game atmosphere. I feel like that kind of resonates with the players as well. So I think that also feeds into it. And I would recommend anyone here to go watch Sounds of the Game. Jaguars put out 20-minute video on YouTube. Sounds of the Game is a very emotional watch, especially if you weren't able to be at the game. It really kind of brings you into the atmosphere. But watching how the defense and offense were so cohesive on the sideline throughout the game, no one turned their back on anyone. And there was a moment in that video where Roy Robertson Harris walked up to Trevor Lawrence, and Lawrence was like, all right, we're going to score here, man. We're going to score here. And Roy Robertson Harris looked at him and said, it doesn't even matter. We got your back no matter what. Go out there and do your thing. And Josh Allen said the same stuff. Everyone on the team was saying that. It was just such a cool moment. I would recommend going to watch it. Elsewhere on the offense, Zay Jones, real quick, Kyle, did you get to watch that video at all?
I'm not sure. I watched a couple YouTube videos, a couple highlights, so maybe have you send that to me afterward.
Yeah, it just came out last night. But
oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Zay Jones, 8 catches, 74 yards and a tutter. Kirk, 8 catches, 78 yards and a tutter. Evan Ingram, 7 catches, 93 yards and a tutter. And then let's just finish it off the quadfecta with a Marvin Jones, 6 catches, 29 yards, and a tutter. So all the guys in the receiving game were feeding out there. They were getting fed like Golden Corral. They were enjoying themselves. They started getting separation and scoring.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's awesome, like just knowing that the receivers feel confident in the balls coming their way, that Trevor Lawrence can make some tough passes. I mean, as bad as he played in the first half, he made some big throws to the outside, some long throws that are tough to make that we've mentioned before. His hot spots really are to the outside on those quick out routes and crossing routes that go to the outside. So everyone pitched in. You don't mount a 27-point comeback on your own. So everybody, like you mentioned, the cohesiveness on the defensive side and the offensive side was awesome. One thing I did want to point out before we move on here, it was just funny thinking about it back in the stadium that we were down 24-0, after a touchdown drive in the first half. The Chargers kick off to us, and then Jamal Agnew is back to return. He returns the ball like 52 yards to the 50. He took it 2 yards out of the end zone. And I thought that was going to be the momentum that we needed. Okay, we got a huge return. We're at the 50-yard line, the best field position of the day. 15 yards gets us in good field position. We ended up having a 3-play, 0-yard, 21-second drive that ended in an interception. So just crazy thing. And I thought that was going to be the turning point in the game. It was not. But that was like the one big play. I felt like the whole stadium was waiting for that one big play, bust a kick return, do something, and it seemed like that was going to be it.
And honestly, Jamal Agnew is one of the few returners in this league with that type of big play ability, to where even when there's a kickoff, you're hoping he gets a chance to return it, because in those moments you do genuinely think that there's a chance he can break the game open or start the comeback, because he's got that ability. And we're going to need that definitely going into this next game against the Chiefs. We're going to need some good special teams play from him. But Kyle, I will give you this. Jaguars 3-2 this year when trailing by 17 or more points.
Okay.
They had one victory over the last 165 attempts in the franchise or something like that, which says more about the Jags franchise than it does about the comeback, that they've been down by 17 points that many times, which is just unbelievable. Do you know the two games that they were down 17 and did not win?
Was that this year you're saying?
Yeah, 3-2. They were down 17 or more points three times this year.
So the Chiefs?
Yeah, and we lost that one. And
then the Giants?
No, the Lions, which was just a huge blowout. But the three victories, obviously down 17 against the Raiders and the Cowboys, and then down 27 to the Chargers, largest comeback in team history, whether it be regular season or playoffs. And just to kind of add to it, the Jags were down 15 to the Eagles in week 4 this year and came back and almost won that one, and then down 9 to the Ravens and in the fourth quarter, came back and won that one. So they find ways to come back and win. Resiliency says a lot about Trevor, says a lot about the confidence in the coaching staff and just the cohesiveness of the entire team. But Kyle, anything else from you from that miraculous victory on Wild Card Weekend for the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Not really, although I do want to make a correction. The Chargers actually had 13 possessions because of that freebie they got at the in the second quarter when they punted and then it muffed and then they recovered and got a field goal. So pretty wild.
That's ridiculous. That's crazy. The Jaguars had no business winning this game. Like, I think that's what it boils down to is I think I've kind of calmed down enough to this point. It's Wednesday. I've calmed down enough to like where I'm not so shocked and this was unbelievable. But going back to the moment of Saturday night and then even on Sunday, it took almost a day and a half to overcome that disbelief that just happened, because it was just such in shock. Everyone in shock. The whole stadium was like, did that just happen? It was just incredible. I can't overstate how awesome it was.
I don't think I told you this, but this guy was in front of me when we were leaving the stadium with his little kid who was maybe like 7 or something like that. They were in front of us, and it was like shortly, after Riley Patterson hit it, and he goes, the dad looks at his kid and he goes, Riley Patterson has the biggest balls in Jacksonville tonight. And the kid's just like, oh yeah. And he's just like, big balls. It was so funny.
That's great. That's good. Can you share what you said to the Chargers fan that was sitting next to you in the second half?
Oh yeah, I just sat down. Came back up. It was after the touchdown. Just looked at him and said, "You ready to see history? Right here in the stadium. You ready to witness history?" Of course, maybe it was a little in jest, but I had a feeling something was going to happen. He was like, "Oh yeah, man. Sure." Sure enough, and then like as we got that first down, he slid out down the thing. I didn't even get to say bye to him.
There was a Chargers fan in front of us and one behind us with his girlfriend or whomever it was. And as that kick happened, you turn around to celebrate and give everyone high fives, and they are nowhere to be seen. They're gone. May have just jumped off the back of the stadium. Who knows? But they were gone from that stadium. So awesome moments for Jacksonville. The city deserves it. Playing with house money. I mean, ultimately at this point, over under for team total wins was, I think, 6.5. And it did not look like we were going to get there midway through the season. And now we've won 6 in a row. So here we are going into Kansas City. Third straight Saturday game for the boys, dating back to the Tennessee Saturday night game, wildcard weekend Saturday night, and now a 4:30 Saturday game against the Chiefs in the divisional round. Chiefs favored by 8.5 in this one. Kyle, thoughts on Jacksonville visiting Arrowhead?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, house money at this point. Definitely a much better offense than the Chargers. They actually lead the NFL in most major offensive categories, including points per game, yards per game. And then, yeah, I think that's it. Passing yards per game.
Yeah. I mean, they have so many weapons, but do you think the Chargers or the Chiefs have more weapons on offense, position to position?
I mean, I think the Chiefs have their players become bigger weapons because of Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I mean, really, when you think about it, it boils down to Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, and then they have like Juju Smith-Schuster on the outside, or whoever it is. You look at the Chargers. I mean, you got Keenan Allen, you got Austin Eckler, Justin Herbert, a top 10 guy, and Gerald Everett, probably a top 15 tight end. Obviously, these two teams are vastly different. There's a reason the Chiefs won the division by 4 games. It wasn't even a close division there. But ultimately, I do feel like the Chargers was a good matchup to prepare for the Chiefs from the standpoint of very similar game style. You're going to have very quick scat backs. You're going to have a quarterback who can deliver the ball. And you kind of have unique play calling on the offensive side to kind of bring all the weapons into it. Right. In this case, you're going to be more worried about Travis Kelce than maybe Keenan Allen or whomever else it was with the Chargers. But I kind of am happy that the Jags had that matchup with the Chargers. Is it fair to say it was kind of a decent, I don't want to say tune-up, but game to get ready for a team like the Chiefs?
Oh, definitely. Anytime, like every player that is on that side can be a weapon where there's no weak spots. Of course, it didn't help that the Chargers didn't have Mike Williams. Shout out Brandon Staley for that. I think that the Chiefs are playing pretty good football, man. I mean, they got Isaiah Pacheco in the backfield, who's been really, really maybe not a surprise, but just a bright spot, kind of taken over for CEH. They got McKinnon out of the backfield, who's very good. So, I think it was a good test as far as, a team that does like to throw the ball a lot, that can spread the ball around. I just think it's going to be kind of next level on the offensive side for Kansas City, and their defense is not that bad either. So we have quite the task at hand this weekend.
And I will just say this too. I mean, you brought up a lot of great points there. Those running backs on the Chiefs are not nearly as good as Austin Eckler. However, when they're matched with Patrick Mahomes, they're better or the same as Austin Eckler. So Patrick Mahomes just elevates everyone around him, which is why he's so dangerous. The Chiefs played the Chargers twice this year, and obviously being divisional rivals, the Chiefs won by 3 points each time, 27-24 in week 2, and then 30-27 in, what was that, week 12, week 13, week 12. So it's not like the Chiefs blew out the Chargers twice. If you're going to look at similar games, they only beat the Texans by 6 as well. Any other similar games we have here? They only beat the Raiders by 1.
They lost to the Colts, but all that all that kind of goes out the window, though. I feel like at this point they are beatable, and they have played some close games. Before we started recording, we said they're 6-10-1 against the spread, so they're not covering the number. They're not finishing games maybe like they should. In fairness, they do get some big spreads that maybe other teams wouldn't. But
yeah,
I think Isaiah Pacheco does run really hard, though. I know you said that Austin Eckler is much better. He is, but I think Isaiah Pacheco has had a great year and a good option if they need to slow things down, if the passing isn't working or what have you. I think it's a good change of pace for that offense.
Yeah, and I mean, the numbers all around. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, 5,250 yards on the year, 5,000-yard passer. Almost, I mean, if they do make a Super Bowl run, he's going to have 6,000 yards just all combined.
Yep.
Is what it feels like. 67% completion percentage, 41 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. Yep. Unheard of. And 105.2 passer rating. Travis Kelce, almost 1,400 yards receiving, leads their team in receiving. And then Pacheco, only 830 yards rushing. Mahomes, second leading rusher on the team with 358. So out of the backfield, they don't necessarily rely on the running game too much, but they use it when they need to. Isaiah Pacheco, 4.9 yards per carry. That's great. All their running backs are averaging over 4 yards a carry, which is very dangerous. And then elsewhere in the receiving game for this team, Juju Smith-Schuster just shy of 1,000 yards, and Valdez-Scantling just shy of 700 yards. What's interesting, though, Kyle, Travis Kelce has 12 touchdowns on the year. Who is second on the team in receiving touchdowns?
McKinnon
with 9.
I know he's had some crazy games, yeah.
McKinnon with 9, and then their third leading receiving touchdown leader,
Let me guess. Noah Gray, is that his name, the other tight end?
No, he's only got 1, and I think it was against Jacksonville.
Oh, okay.
Mecole Hardman, who has 300 yards receiving on the year. So I say all that to say, Patrick Mahomes obviously does not rely on the receivers to get into the end zone.
Right.
It's a lot of over the middle, find Travis Kelce, let him cook, or just hit Jerick McKinnon out of the backfield on a swing pass or an angle route, whatever it is. I think that's going to pose a big problem for the Jags defense because I think we struggle against tight ends. As I just mentioned, Noah Gray with his only touchdown on the year in that game against Jacksonville. But conversely, Jaguars obviously have weapons of their own. Christian Kirk, you have ETN, you have Zay Jones, and Evan Ingram. They're all very much coming into their own, and Trevor Lawrence is kind of becoming a great equalizer as well when they're going up against teams that have explosive offenses. And if that 27-point comeback doesn't tell you anything, let it tell you that this team is built to throw the ball through the air, pick up chunk yardage, and score quickly. And that's something that we've never been used to in Jacksonville is scoring quickly. And we were able to do that this past week. And I think while the Chiefs are probably going to outpace us, I think the Jaguars do have what it takes to kind of keep up with them if Trevor Lawrence can protect the ball.
Yeah, I agree. And I was just pulling up the stats, just like you were mentioning, McKinnon out of the backfield and Kelce. So Kelce only had 6 catches against us for 81 yards and a touchdown. If you tell me that that's going to be his stat line, I will take that all day. So hopefully we can do the same and replicate that. I was going to say, I remember we forced a fumble early in the game last time, and we did not take advantage of it.
Kyle, we opened the game with an onside kick.
Oh, that's right, and we recovered it.
Yeah,
that's right, and then we punted.
And then we forced a fumble right before halftime and kicked a field goal.
Okay, so we forced 2 fumbles in the first half then.
Oh, wait. Riley Patterson, he missed 2 field goals that game, I think.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Remember that?
So, yeah, they had 2 fumbles, and so we got 3 possessions pretty much for free, and we couldn't do anything with it. So hopefully this new Jags team 2 months later kind of understands the importance. You have to convert on turnovers. I mean, honestly, the Chargers should have won 5 turnovers. You got to get at least 3 or 4 touchdowns there. I think we held them to 2 or 3 field goals off of turnovers. So plan number one is to keep Mahomes off the field. Second part is to force turnovers and then to score off of those.
Yeah.
I could be an NFL coach.
No, yeah. I mean, it's so simple. It's so simple. I'd like to think Doug Peterson is going to watch that bit from the podcast and just show that to the team. Here are the keys to the game to win this one. So Jacksonville back in week 10 when we played this team to fall to 3-7. Obviously, we've gone 7-1 since this game. So this was the last game right before the bye, and we went 7-1 following this game. Only loss being to the Detroit Lions in that span. But the Jaguars were down 20-0 in this game. And I don't want to say it's a trend, but it's becoming a trend that this team falls behind. If you fall behind even 13 or 14-0 in this game this weekend, I think the Chiefs are going to stick a fork in you. There is no coming back at that point. And it's going to suck because if that happens, Jags fans are going to keep holding their breath, waiting for the comeback to happen. But I don't think that's going to happen with this type of offense. We have to keep up with them and either match their scores or outscore them if we want to stay in this game and ultimately win this game. We were 2 missed Riley Patterson field goals away from it being a 1-possession game last time we played them. We need him to, that was probably his last terrible game he had as well. So we need him to step up and play well. We need the Jags to show what they're made of from the past month and a half or two, and maybe use that experience from week 10 in Arrowhead to our advantage and know what to prepare for from the crowd standpoint and the atmosphere standpoint going into one of the toughest places to play in the NFL.
Agreed. And also, since the Jags Chiefs game, they're 7-1 too, not including the win against us, but after that, they're 7-1. If you include that, as well as the 2 before, they are 10-1. So the last 11 games are 10-1. They've been very hot. They've been playing well. And like you mentioned, tough environment to play in, passionate fan base, a fan base that expects a lot out of their team, granted the talent that they have. So I feel like we just need to play within ourselves, stick to the game plan, believe in each other, and it should be a close game. Yeah.
Well, let's get to score predictions for this one, Kyle, unless you have anything else as far as the preview goes.
No, not too much else. I said Kansas City's in the top, they're ranked first in total yards per game, offensive or passing yards per game, as well as scoring. The Jags are 9th in scoring, 7th in yards per game, 10th in passing yards per game. So we're still top 10 in a lot of those categories. What I'm concerned about is our on defense, we let up the 5th most passing yards per game as a defensive unit. And then we let up I think it's like the 10th most total yards per game. So, just a little bit something to think about.
Do you have Kansas City's rushing defense numbers there by chance?
I don't. I can pull them up. I have their.
Well, the only reason I ask is because if I remember correctly, Travis Etienne had a terrible game against the Chiefs back in November, back in week 10, and that's not going to fly this week.
They're 7th, so they have a pretty good rushing defense.
I mean, Travis actually 11 for 45. 4.1 per carry.
Yeah, they just playing from behind, like you said.
Yeah,
so
we were playing from behind, I guess. But yeah, it wasn't one of his best games as far as total yards, but his average was pretty up there. So, but it's going to take everyone in this one. Kyle, do you think the NFL is happy that it's Chiefs Jags, or do you think they were just praying for Chiefs Chargers?
I'm sure they would have liked the Chiefs and the Chargers. It's another divisional matchup. That would be the second divisional matchup of the divisional round with the Giants and the Eagles playing. So I'm sure they wanted it, but they get what they get.
I don't know. I kind of feel like I asked that because I feel like Herbert has solidified himself as a top 10 guy, and he's marketable, and the NFL is going to continue to put the Chargers on prime time and 4:00 games. I feel like this gives them an opportunity to kind of showcase Trevor Lawrence. Over the last month, the primetime games dating back to Thursday night against the Jets. We've had 3 primetime games, Jets, and then obviously the New Year's Day game at 1, but then Saturday night, and now Saturday afternoon in the playoffs. I think the NFL is kind of looking at this as an opportunity to shine a light on Trevor Lawrence. Maybe not necessarily the Jacksonville Jaguars and in the small market that we are, but kind of show some love to Trevor Lawrence because they love having these young rookie or young gun quarterbacks coming up to be able to market. So just my thoughts on that. But let's get to score predictions for this one, Kyle. Jags at Chiefs Saturday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 8.5-point favorites are the Chiefs. What are your thoughts on this one, Key?
I mean, I'm going to keep picking the Jags. I think I've picked them to win pretty much every time, at least the last 8 episodes. So I'm going to keep rolling with it. I think the Jags get this done on the road in a very close game, presumably a high-scoring game. 34-31 Jaguars.
Wow. 34-31 Jacksonville, says Kyle, after scoring 31 against the Chargers. And the Jaguars have only scored over 30 points 3 other times this season. 38-10 against the Chargers, and you had a 36-22 against the Titans, and then 40-34 against the Cowboys. And then obviously the fourth one was this past weekend. So Kyle looking for the 5th 30 or more point total from the Jaguars, and a 65 total in that one, 34-31. That would be so fun. I mean, that would be such a fun game. What's up?
Put it on the board.
Put it on the board. Yes. You know what? At this point, I don't even care if I'm wrong. We don't even keep stats on this. I'm going to go with the Jaguars winning this one, and I'm going to go 31-28 in this one, in another Riley Patterson last-minute field goal to win it. I think Patrick Mahomes and Trevor Lawrence both have 4 touchdowns in this one, and it comes down to the final drive where Riley Patterson kicks the game winner in Arrowhead Stadium to send the Jacksonville Jaguars to the conference championship game in either Buffalo or Cincinnati, which would be absolutely insane. That's what I'm going with. 59 total points there.
Love it.
What I will say real quick, though, is the over-under for this is 53. 65% on the over right now. But if you look at the spread, 9.5-point favorites are the Chiefs, I guess, current line. 52% on the Chiefs, 48 on the Jags. So public may be loving the Jags a little bit, thinking they'll keep it close, which makes me feel okay. Let's get out to the rest of the NFL here, Kyle. Just general thoughts, short and sweet, on the rest of the wild card weekend. We had 6 fantastic, well, for the most part, fantastic games until they had to put Tom Brady on the TV. But thoughts on wild card weekend, Kyle?
Yeah, I told you that the Vikings were frauds, so happy the Giants won. I was rooting for them big time. Not surprised the Cowboys won, although I haven't been as high on them lately. I was more so riding the Tom Brady train. Bengals, obviously, against the Ravens, which didn't necessarily come as easy as we maybe thought it was going to be. And then I was way off on the Dolphins and Bills. I showed mad disrespect to the Dolphins, so hand up on that one. Congrats to them for keeping it close. Would have loved to see the upset in both of those games. But shout out me for predicting the Ravens correctly, 24-17. I got the score on the nose, so that always feels good.
Yeah, big shout out to you. Exact score. We did, however, I think we both went 5-1 with our only loss being the Cowboys-Bucks game, which we should have seen the forest through the tree, and the tree was Tom Brady, and we just didn't see the rest of the picture. So shame on us. Had the Dolphins and Ravens won, Jaguars would be hosting the Ravens this weekend, which would have been crazy here in Jacksonville. What's up?
Would have been awesome. I mean, for those games to be one possession each is just a miracle. I can't believe that it was a possibility watching that Bills game on Sunday, that if the Dolphins won that, then we would just need the Ravens to win that night.
I mean, and you really did have 5 great games. Granted, the 49ers won 41-23 over the Seahawks, but the Seahawks were winning at halftime, 17-16.
Yeah, closer than the score showed.
It was 17-16. And then 23-17, it was kind of getting away. And then I'm pretty sure there was a fumble starting the fourth quarter. The Seahawks fumbled. They could have easily made it. They could have taken the lead again to make it 24-23. However, they fumbled, and then the route was on from that point, 41-23. 49ers look legit. But also that's a product of possibly playing the Seahawks and Geno Smith. Obviously, a bigger matchup coming up this week. against the Cowboys for the 49ers. But really fun games. I am happy to see the Giants win as well. I was talking to Richie, shout out Richie, after the Giants won, and we were just talking about the Jags and the Giants and just how crazy it is how much coaching can benefit a team. And we're seeing it firsthand right now. Jaguars in the playoffs still, Giants in the playoffs still. And you look at the teams left in the playoffs, and those are all going to be the candidates for Coach of the Year, just because of how important it is. And the teams that are not in the playoffs are looking for coaches. So, and that sounds redundant, but it's just true. Coaching means everything. And the Giants and Jaguars are here to prove it. But Kyle, let's look ahead to the divisional round of the playoffs. Starts off obviously Saturday, 4:30 with the Jags Chiefs, but let's jump past that, since we just talked about it, to the Giants Eagles NFC Beast divisional matchup in the Saturday slate, 8:30, 8:15 p.m.
All right. Yeah. So like I said, the Giants Eagles, a division game, which is funny because there was 2 division games last week as well, with the Bills, Dolphins, Ravens, Bengals. This week it's the Giants and the Eagles for the division round or division matchup. I'm picking the Eagles. I like the Eagles. I got a future on the Eagles. I like Jalen Hurts. Part of me really likes the Giants, though. I mean, maybe I go Giants against the spread. What's that spread at currently? 4? Oh, sorry, 7.5. I see. My bad. Okay, wow. So I definitely would take the Giants against that, but I do think the Eagles pull it out. I think it could be kind of an ugly game just from a defensive side. I'm thinking maybe 24-20. The Eagles win this.
Yeah, I like that analysis of it. The Giants play like Tennessee Titan football, except just like on steroids, and just better all around. So maybe not like Tennessee Titan football, but it just feels like it. They control the game from the defensive side, but then they're explosive on offense somehow. And Saquon Barkley has had a career renaissance after an ACL tear. Daniel Jones is taking full advantage of great coaching in Brian Daboll, and he is making receivers that were on practice squads 2 years ago look like top-tier guys in the NFL. It's awesome to see. Obviously, the Giants beat the Jags earlier this year. That makes that loss feel a little bit more stomachable, if you will, seeing how the Giants have kind of marched into the divisional round. I'm going to go with a little bit of an upset here, Kyle, just because of what the Giants defense can do to stop Jalen Hurts. And I get the Eagles have beaten the Giants handedly twice this year. Hard to beat a team twice. Even more difficult to beat a team 3 times. And I think the Giants kind of have the advantage of playing wild card weekend. The Eagles they have a little maybe rust on them, and maybe that helps. Eagles outside of Jalen Hurts don't have the greatest running attack. I'm gonna go Giants here, 24-20. Wait, did you take 24-20 Eagles over Giants?
I did, but it's okay.
No, 24-23 is what I was gonna say. I said 24-20 because of what you said. Freudian slip there. So
are you writing these down?
24-23. No, you write them down and send me a picture of it later.
Okay.
So you had 24-20 Eagles. I had 24-23 Giants. In that one. Sunday, 3 p.m. game, we got the Bengals at Bills. Obviously, would have been a rematch from the regular season. That game got canceled, postponed, and then canceled. So the Bengals and Bills are finally meeting, this time in Buffalo. No coin flip needed for who was going to host this one. But it's 2 teams that America loves, these quarterbacks, loves these teams for the most part. I mean, I think Buffalo is a little bit easier to love than Cincinnati, but depending on who you are and the team you like, you probably love one more than the other. But long story short, this is going to be a fun matchup of 2 evenly matched teams, both on the defensive side of the ball and offensive side of the ball, up and down the roster and depth chart. Kyle, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, should be a great game. Josh Allen versus Joe Cool. Lots to like on both sides of the field.
Joe Shiesty.
So likable people. Obviously, the Bills have had that tragedy a couple weeks ago, or I guess maybe tragedy avoided, depending how you look at it. But,
miracle.
Miracle. He's going to be in the stadium, I believe. I know he's at the facility. I can't imagine the atmosphere is going to be when he's there. Nothing against Joe Shiesty. Like the team, lots of weapons. They're fun to watch. I'm going Buffalo 31-27.
Yeah, I think Hamlin being in the stadium does actually do something for the crowd and the team. I don't think that can be discounted at all. This isn't like a retired player coming back and getting honored with the Ring of Honor. This is a guy that got resuscitated and was dead and then alive, and he's coming back to his teammates. I think that's huge. If it wasn't for that, I would actually probably take the Bengals in this spot. But I do think the Bills are going to have enough motivation to play in this one in Orchard Park, a place very difficult to play at again. And if Kevin's going to watch this, I want him to know that I like the Bills in this one over the Bengals. So I'll go Bills 27-26 over the Bengals, which is a weird number. And I think I've picked 26 a few times in this when we've been doing this, but it could happen. Let's get to the final game of divisional round, Kyle. Cowboys at Niners. I feel like this is like a throwback to every NFC championship from the 80s. But these two teams that are massive rivals meet again. And the third NFC East team is the Cowboys, obviously, matching up against the 49ers. What are your thoughts here?
I'm looking forward to this game. 49ers have been fun to watch. Brock Purdy, very, very pleasant surprise to see with Jimmy G going out and then him stepping in. Wasn't hating on the Cowboys, wasn't loving the Cowboys to start the playoffs just based on how they've been playing, as well as Dak. I think they showed a great amount of readiness in the last game to come out and beat the Bucs the way they did. I do think they're going to be a little surprised against the 49ers, a much tougher team, a much more prepared team ready to go. With that said, I do think the 49ers will be facing kind of the same thing. They played the Seahawks. Like we mentioned, it was a close game, but they eventually pulled away as they probably should have. I'm going with the upset here. I'm going with the Cowboys. I don't love it. I don't love it at all. I want to make that clear. I think the 49ers are an awesome team. I think CMC fits in perfectly, and their defense has been great. I do think this will be more of a defensive battle. Both teams have pretty good, strong playmakers on each side. I'm going 23-21 Cowboys.
All right, calling for the upset. I'm going to have to flip the script on you. I think the 49ers win this one pretty handedly. Not pretty handedly. I think the Cowboys keep it close for a while, but ultimately I think the 49ers defense steps up and does some good things. And I think CMC is kind of the difference maker here, and he's a catalyst for this offense. And yeah, the Cowboys have, more playmakers, I would say, pretty easily with two great running backs and CeeDee Lamb and Dalton Schultz has started showing up for the Cowboys. But I think the 49ers here are going to win this one in San Francisco. And I'm going to go with a 17-13 game, actually. Low-scoring game, slow pace of play, but I think it's going to be 17-13. Cowboys just coming off a game against the Bucs. That does nothing to prepare you for a team like the 49ers. That was like a walkover game to get to this matchup. So 49ers in this one, 17-13. But Kyle, anything else from you before we call it an evening here on the Poojie Podcast?
No, just hoping for another close game this week. Last week's atmosphere was awesome. The city was buzzing. Want to give a shout out to 8103. Shout out Mark. I had this jacket on at the game. It kept me nice and warm. First time actually getting to wear it out. So I do love this jacket. It's very cozy. Hopefully we go to the AFC Championship and I get to wear it either in Cincinnati or Buffalo.
Ooh, yeah. Mark with the 8103 clothing line over there is awesome. And I would be wearing my hat, but it's still packed up from the move. So I have one Jaguar hat out right now, and this is it. But shout out 8103 for sure. And I'm going to just say this. The weather on Saturday was pretty awesome and felt like football weather. And Jacksonville and Jaguar fans, you could tell, are just like not ready for playoff football to be sustainable because of how cold it was. And if it's going to be like that for a while, fans are going to need to get ready for more of those temperatures. But anyways, man, I appreciate you being here. And hopefully we get a close competitive game and not go down 27, not go down even 20 like we did to the Chiefs the last time we played them. Hopefully the team wakes up and starts out hot. Why can't the Jaguars score first? Why can't the Jags hold a lead at the end of the first quarter? That's what we need to do this game against the Chiefs. and I think we'll be in a pretty good spot. But appreciate you being here, fans out there listening. Appreciate you tuning into the podcast. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and as always, go make this world a better place and take care.
How can I be the man when you're the man? How can I be the man when you're the man? How can I be the man when you're the man?